So, what if we wanted to build a dictionary of dictionaries? This is a little more complicated only because we have to consider the key value pair situation. That is, how do you set a key value pair in a dictionary? Simply, you say something like, my dict key equals value. And it's pretty straightforward. How are we going to do that to build a structure like this one, which, as you can see, a dictionary of dictionaries? Actually, I guess it's a little easier to think about than it is reading, because reading can be a challenge when you're thinking to keep in mind, basically, that when you retrieve a key from a dictionary, or if you loop through a dictionary, you're only getting the key, and you need to use the key to get the value. Well, all right, let's build a structure like this one. Okay, let's build it. As with all the tabular data parsing that we've done in the past, we're doing the very same thing that we did before. We are looping through a file line by line. We're splitting each line into items. And then as we did with the list of dictionaries, we're building an inner dictionary for that row. And what we're doing here, of course, is the analog to append. We're not appending to a list now. We're setting a key value pair. Of course, the concept with our dictionary of dictionaries that we mentioned before is that the key should be the 8-digit or the 8-character year, and the value should be a row of data for that year. So, in other situations, you would consider what is the primary key, what is the unique key for each row, and whatever that unique key might be. And of course, in this case, it's the year, month, day, because we could key all data to each date. Then we'll make that the key in the dictionary. And, I might even make it a little clearer by saying YMD equals column 0, and then use YMD in the assignment. But really, it's, as you can see, it's really not that different from any other kind of dictionary building from data that we might do. We're looping line by line. We're taking data from the row. We're saying, let's set a key value pair. If the key value pair, if we're building a dictionary of dictionaries, then we need to consider what that dictionary will be for that key. And that's all we're doing here. It's really, really very straightforward. As long as you can maintain in your own thinking what it is you're trying to accomplish, where you're trying to go with this. So now when we p-print it, fortunately at this point, the window is actually wide enough to accept the entire dictionary. So pprint in its economy is just showing us a row of data per row of data that was added to the dictionary. Okay, let's look at one last structure. I'm not going to show you how to build it because it's part of our homework, but there may well be a time when you want to build a structure like this. And in fact, if you consider what we've done in the past, especially with looping through tabular structures, we did in session 3 loop through a tabular structure, like this one, and sum up a column of values based on whatever year we wanted to sum up, right? We did that first. The next thing we did was build up a list of values based on a particular year. And we were using a list and append, etc., to do that. We also did something when we got to session 5 called a summing dictionary. You may remember that the operative part of the code, the code that seemed to be the crux of the operation, was when we said if key not in sumdict, then sumdict key equals value, else sumdict key equals sumdict key plus value. Now, if you consider what we were doing there, we were basically saying for each key, let's collect the series of values and sum them up while we're looping through the data. So we may see the key multiple times. And when we see the key a second or third time, we're going to read the dictionary to see what value is there. And then we're going to add the new value to that value and assign it back to. That's what we're doing here. So as we loop through the data, if a key is not in the dict, then we set it in the dict with the current value. Else, if the key is in the dict, then we're going to add it to the current value for this key and assign it back to the key. So really, to build a dictionary of lists, which is very similar to this concept, understand that before, when we built a summing dictionary, we had a key associated with a summed value, a value that was compiled of several values in the file for this key, right? The floats that were found for this year. Now what we're going to do is take it just one step further and build a dictionary of lists. So similar to what we did between session 3 and 4, where instead of building a sum, we built a list of values so that we can calculate things like the variance, the median, and that kind of thing. We're now, and then getting to the dictionary and saying, let's sum up some values for a key, we're now going to collect a list of values for that key. And what you need to do is going to be pretty straightforward. In other words, instead of saying, if the key was not found in the dictionary, let's set a key and the value in the dictionary, we're probably going to say, set a key and a new list with the value in the dictionary, and otherwise append the current value to the list for this key. Now, if this doesn't make sense, you'll definitely want to step back and ask yourself, we should ask ourselves, the evolution of what we did through sessions 3 through 5. We began by summing, then we were appending, then we were summing by key, now finally we're appending by key. We're doing the exact same thing we did in the summing dictionary, but we'll now be, instead of setting a value to 0 or setting a value to a current value, we're going to set it to a new list that we can then append to as we continue to collect values for a particular year. See if you can make sense of this in your mind in terms of what we're trying to do. What we're seeing in this dictionary of lists, and this is basically what you're going to want to see at the end of, maybe not literally these values, but this is the structure you're going to want to see at the end of our second homework this week, is a dictionary where the key is a year and the value is a list of market ref values for that year. This will allow us to do all kinds of different analyses that wouldn't have been possible with a simple dictionary. So that will be your charge for the homework, and I hope it makes at least a little bit theoretical sense right now.